Fort Wayne, Indiana Tea Party. Guest speaker Alan Keyes. I'm working through the crowd to get him on live.
It's in danger today as it has never been before in the history of our country. Because I've got to tell you, I know that there are folks, and there are many reasons why people would come out and what they would see as good about a day like this. And some folks are thinking, well, this is going to mean well in 2010 and 2012 for this one and that one and this party and that party. What makes you think we're going to have an election in 2010? What makes you think we're going to have a country in 2012? Aren't you watching? Don't you understand what you see? And the truth of the matter is, what is being put in place in this country today is a series of steps that is taking over the economy, taking over the politics, shamming the elections until the day will come when this will be a government of the politicians, for the money bags, for the bureaucrats, and we'll be left out of it for good. That means we need to ask some serious questions about why we're here. Because wonderful as it is for folks to come together, and I wish we understood when the times were good that we need to come together just in order to make sure we know what our mind is. But I'm glad to see when things start going over the cliff, we wake up and say, well, we better get together and let our voices be heard, let our hearts be known. And as we do, we need to look at the circumstance that brought us here. And though it may prove to be a little disappointing and offensive to some, I know for that. So I don't even know why I bother to apologize anymore. It's quite obvious that I'm incorrigible and I won't stop. So, the matter is, if we take a careful look at what brought us here, I know that there are those people, including the fellow sitting in the White House, he'd love for all of us to just be all angry and indignant, take out our pitchforks, go after the greedy bankers and the investors. And I'll tell you, if you would have asked me, Alan, do you think those greedy bankers and investors are to blame for our problems?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I would surely tell you, they've got some blame to share. They surely did make loans that violated every banking principle and all the integrity and responsibility they're supposed to show as people who are entrusted with other people's money. They surely did. They surely did greedily go after short-term profits, building assets on liar loans they knew were no good, but they sold it to investors as if they were. So I'll tell you, we ought to be angry with the bankers, but in the meantime, while we're getting all upset and pretending that that's all we have to care about, we should look at the politicians who are standing on the sidelines, ordering them to make the bad loans. We should look at those who told the regulators to stop doing their basic job and making sure that this kind of fraud wasn't perpetrated against investors and against the people. We should look at them. And you know what you're going to find? You're going to find in their ranks a lot of the folks who are right now telling us that we ought to turn over power and money to their control. They created the problem. They're not going to use our money to solve it. You've got to be a little suspicious. You've got to be a little bit suspicious when a bankrupt government tells you it's going to bail out a bankrupt banking system. But y'all, where are these folks getting all this money? There was a time when my main point in life was to try to make people realize that when the government shows up and says that it's going to spend money to do this and spend money to do that and spend money to do the other thing, when your politician comes home and says, I got this for you and I got that for you, and so forth and so on, the one thing we had to remember is that it's our money in the first place. Last time I looked, if somebody reaches in your pocket and takes out your money, spends it on their power and spends it on their greed and spends it on their interest, and then they go out and buy you a little bauble and hand it to you to keep you satisfied, you don't tell them they've done you a favor. And yet our politics has been built upon that kind of of lies below these many years, and yet there were some folks, and I must count myself among their ranks, and for a time there were folks who came to you and they said, we want constitutional government, we want limited government. We want respect for the moral principles that this nation was founded on. We want respect for the free enterprise economy. We want to see and make sure that we do not give up our liberty and give up our freedom. Boy, it sounded good. And every 4 years they would meet in convention, and good folks like you would gather from around the country. They'd write a nice platform, and they'd put it out there. And then it turns out that the folks who were telling us they wanted limited government, and who were telling us that they were going to preserve our Constitution, and who were telling us that they would fight to keep our free enterprise, free market system alive, when the crunch came last fall and the economic terrorists told them that we were on the brink of disaster, they folded, they surrendered, and they left this country cross the Rubicon to socialism. So I have to agree with you at one level. See, I think we're at one of those moments. And it's one of those moments that occurs periodically in American life. Has in the past. When the time came after the first so-called parties were formed, and there was this Whig party, and they went and started acting against the things they were supposed to wouldn't take seriously, the great moral challenges facing the country, and there came a moment when it was time to change the water. And the people said, you got to go, we're going to build a new vehicle. And they built a vehicle that was named after the Republic. They called it the Republican Party. And it was a vehicle that was standing juxtaposed for many years with a vehicle that is named after the people. Sometimes you don't realize it. The word Democrat means, from Greek, the power or strength of the people. Okay? I always pause when I talk about that, because think about this. We have a Democratic Party that believes everything should be done by the government, not the people.